bass.
Welcome to another edition of Truth and Rhythm. This is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. I am your host, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine. If you enjoy this programming, subscribe to the Funkin' Stuff channel on YouTube, which is where Truth and Rhythm lives, and be an advocate by spreading the word among fellow funk, jazz, and R&B music lovers. Join Truth and Rhythm's membership program through Patreon. You can also submit a direct donation to the cause anytime at funkinstuff.net. At that site, you can also purchase the book Everything's on the One, The First Guide of Funk. Shop for official Truth and Rhythm and Funkin' Stuff merchandise, and use the Amazon links for all of your online purchases, which allocates a percentage to this show. For those of you who go the extra step in supporting the show, you have my heartfelt gratitude for allowing us to continue to shine the light on those special artists whose quest is to find truth in rhythm. I'm delighted to welcome to the Truth and Rhythm Show keyboardist, singer, composer, and producer Theo Coakley, best known as founder and leader of the funk and disco band Connection. The group, which included his younger brother, Kirkwood Coakley, on bass, released 8 albums from 1977 through 1984. Those featured 6 top 40 R&B singles and 5 top 10 dance tracks, including the #1 song, Do What You Want to Do. Among the classic funk jams from throughout their recording history was Lady of the Night, Peace Line, Funkannection, Funky Lady, Coming Back for More, Groove City, Everything is Cool, I Like Funkin With You, Totally Connected, Superstar, and Anything Goes. Impressive list. Theo, it's so great to have you here. How are you?
Oh, it's my pleasure, Scott. It's my pleasure. I love the show, man.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So good to have you finally. Been a fan. You know, I made the T Connection back in 1978. So great to have you here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Where are you today, Theo?
I'm in California. I've been living here now for about 27 years, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Southern California, or?
Yeah, it's Southern California. I got married, so I stayed. Because my wife's a teacher, so she's one of the best teachers here, so she wanted to continue that, so we stayed.
All right. Well, you know, I'm from Los Angeles originally, so
Okay.
yeah.
I'm
not there anymore.
I'm in Beaumont right now, Beaumont, California, pretty near the Palm Springs.
Oh, okay. The desert, yeah.
Yeah, the desert. Mhm.
Nice. I enjoyed Palm Springs, Palm Desert. Used to go out there for spring break when I was college age. It was pretty wild.
Yeah.
Well, outstanding, Theo. So glad to have you here. And you know, obviously, you're originally from the Bahamas, right?
Yes.
Okay. Could you tell everyone a little bit about that and how music came into your life?
Well, I grew up in Nassau, Bahamas. That's the capital of the Bahamas, and they had just one radio station, ZNS, which is the government-run station. And so, because they had the one station, they played all kinds of music, and so that was my beginning of listening to music. And so that's the reason why, if you listen to my music, you would hear that a lot of different influences, because, you know, they played so many different things. And when they played James Brown, I just went crazy. I mean, because he was so funky, and I never heard, I believe he invented it, because I don't think I heard it before him. And then after that, you just heard so much. And then my music was informed mostly by Bahamian music, which is called Rake and Scrape. They have a lot of names for it: Rake and Scrape, Junkanoo, Goombay, and stuff like that. And when I decided I was going to be in the business, was when I had a birthday party that my parents threw for me because I did well in school. And so I had these three guys. They were the popular group in the islands, and they were playing at my birthday party in my yard. And once they started playing the way everybody felt about that, I had said, that's the business I want to be in right there. I want to make people feel like they're making us feel. Because before that, I played and piano and everything like that. I was about, 13 years old or something like that. I've been playing just self-taught for a while. And that's when I really decided I was going to be a musician, because I wanted that more than anything. I want to be what they were, So that was my first introduction to thinking about my future career,
And did Kirkwood follow in your footsteps, or how did that come to be that he also pursued music?
Well, Kirkwood was living in another island when I came back I had gone to Freeport, which is another city. It was an American city in the Bahamas. It was released out to a gentleman, I can't remember his name right now, but he rented it for 99 years, and he created a whole mini Vegas there. So when I went to play down there, I was around so many great musicians for a year and a few months. So when I went back to Nassau, I was so more far advanced than everybody else that I left back in Nassau. And so when I went back, I saved a lot of money in Freeport, and I had my brother Kirk come live with me. And I started him off trying to learn piano, but he was like, this is so hard, So, I thought about it. I said, you know what, if I try him on some instrument, I tried him on bass. So I took my guitar, my big acoustic guitar, took off the 2 strings and had 4 strings. And I started to show him the notes and everything like that. He picked up on it so fast, it was unbelievable. So I'm getting him a real bass. I got him a real bass. And man, he was just playing everything that was on the radio. And so that's how he got into the business.
And what's the age difference between you two?
That's 7 years.
Oh, quite a bit. So
Yeah,
you're really the big brother. Yeah.
Well, he looks like he's like 40. Because he's a vegetarian and all that stuff. But yeah, I was his big brother. I raised him because when he came to live with me, he was like, I think 11, something like that. And so he had his own little group when he was like 13. And so I said, okay, I'm doing my group, Funkannection. And he was playing down in another island with his friend, Berkeley Vanberg, who's the drummer. And so they came back after that little gig they did there. They were there for a couple months. And he was staying with me again. And by this time, he was in his, 17, 18. So I said, no, I heard them practicing, those two, just bass and drums. And they were doing Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. They were just playing, he was playing the bass and the guy was playing the drums. And when I heard that, I was like, that's my battery right there. That's the battery, because it was so funky. And I said, that's my battery. So we started out as a trio. And then so when I seriously was going to do it, I told the group I was playing with, I'm going to do my own group. I got the guys that want to, do it, because I wanted young guys. I don't want, a lot of the guys at the time were kind of steeped in what they had heard before, and they weren't hip to what was happening at the time, And so they were great players, but I wanted guys, I didn't care if they were as good as these guys. I just wanted them to be into what was happening at the time, and they were into all the Shaft and all that. They could play all that stuff. And so basically I put the group together as a trio, and I was going to look for a guitar player. I couldn't find a guitar player that I wanted. I wanted a young guy that can play all the new stuff. And Kirk suggested, he said, I know this guy, he's around the corner, Marty Brown. And so I said, hey, bring him around. And he comes around. And when I heard that strumming, he was a great rhythm player, man. Great rhythm player. And I said, okay, I got my band. And so we started out, first gig we did was, because I practiced group for about, 8, 9 months. I just practice every day. So we did a gig at one of the top clubs in Allen and went over pretty big. And then an owner of one of the most popular clubs at the time called the Show Club heard us say, hey, I want you to come to Show Club, play there. And so we started playing there. But then, unfortunately, that was during the oil crisis. And so there weren't a lot of tourists now, and that's our bread butter, tourism. And so that gig closed down, that place closed down. And so a few months later, I went to Nassau Beach and I talked. Nassau Beach Hotel was one of the hotels that had a few bands. And I said, I don't have anything right now, but I have a good group. And they had this room that nobody could swing. Nobody could make that room happen because there was a guy in there called Ronnie Butler, and he was hot as heck, and he left him to do his own club. And so I said, man, I can swing this with my band, I can swing this. I was really confident about it. And so he said, okay, I'll give you a shot, So we went in there and I don't know, maybe a month or two, we had people around the block. And so I know, bam, we got this going. So a year later, unbelievably, a guy comes down from Freeport. So I'm going to take you guys to Freeport. And I said, we here, we got a big audience. Man, he said, no, I'll pay you twice what you're doing, get whatever you want, So we signed with him. We went down there. And because I was able to save so much money, because we paid real, real well. So I took that money that I saved and I did a demo in a big studio where the Bee Gees and all these guys were recording, called Criteria. And so that demo, I used that demo and to get a deal because Gary Davis, a Bahamian guy, had a deal already with a record company. He had a producer. So he introduced me to his producer. And that's the guy that got us into the disco thing. And we got the deal because of my demo. He heard my demo. He said, okay, you guys, I'd like to work with you guys. And so, but he said, okay, the stuff you have now is good, and it's good, it's R&B in it, but there's a thing happening called disco, which we'd never heard of. And I want you guys to get into that. And I want you guys to do some breaks in the middle. And we said, oh, you play some stuff. So he played some stuff for us. And we said, okay, we know what to do. So we went back and we started to do practice some of the songs we already had on the demo, but we tried to do a disco, but we try to keep the funk in it. So we started practicing, do what you want to do. And Kurt just came up with that bass, that bass in the front with the slap pluck and everything. So right there, I said, that's good. That's good. But when we went to the break, I was like, we need something that break. And so I went off to listen to the band. I came off the keyboard, go up there, and I said to Monks, the percussion player, Monks, play the timbales. He played the timbales, and I was like, man, that's it. So we took it back to the producer, and he was really happy with it. So we recorded that. Of course, we had recorded an instrumental before that because he wanted an instrumental called Disco Magic. But Do What You Want to Do was going to be the real song. That was going to be the song. And so when we did Do What You Want to Do, and we started doing, he heard that bass line. He's like, oh man, this is funky. This is going to be good. And so when we did that break, and then we did scream in the break, I don't know if you remember that scream in the break at the end to take you into the other part. He just went crazy. He said, man, they're going to go nuts in New York. And so we felt really good about that because he knew the business. So he took it to New York, and he said, man, it's gone. He said, it's gone, man. It's just, everybody's crazy about it. And so before we could blink, it was like number one. And it was number one for like 7 or 8 weeks in a row. In every single dance club, in every single one. They had all this in Billboard, like 3 pages of it. We're number one in everything, and it wouldn't move. And so that's when we knew we had something,
Wow. Were there many American bands, like funk groups, that came to the islands to play? Did you get to see any of them?
Yeah.
Who influenced you that way?
Well, James Brown came when I was a kid. He came over there, and you could hear all that funk. I couldn't go in because I was too young, but I could stand outside and hear, like, Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, which was really funky for that time. And who else was there? Well, when I was a kid, there weren't that many funk bands that came over because funk was so new when I was a kid. So as far as later on, Wilson Pickett had a band that came on. They were real funky, but I mean, that was his band. But as far as bands, there were not a lot of funky bands that came over. We just listened to them on the stations in Miami because we got the Miami stations. And so, we love all the funk bands like the Meters, and bands like that. Chocolate Milk. I don't know if you're the funk man, so you know them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're from Louisiana.
Yeah, Chocolate Milk. So they're the bands that we like in Bahamas, the funk bands.
Yeah. So you got that Bayou funk with the Meters and Chocolate Milk. Yeah.
That. And the James Brown, he had all stuff like Cold Sweat and stuff like that. And then Parliament and Funkadelic, they came much later. They came more in the 70s. But in the 60s, it was the Meters. They were the funkiest thing going around. They were really funky.
Yeah, great group. But there was a big audience in the islands for funk music, or yeah.
James Brown was the man in the islands. He was the man. I mean, in the Bahamas, one guy said to me, if James Brown put on a record and nothing came out, everybody would say, wow, that's so great that nothing came out. I mean, that's how probably was. He could do it with nothing on it. So when he had that popcorn and that popcorn, I think it was called Mother Popcorn or something like that.
Yeah, he had one called Mother Popcorn.
Yeah, that was really popular there. He was really popular in the Bahamas.
What about some of the sort of the groups that had some world music influence, like Mandrill?
Oh yeah, yeah. Because we had to play when we started the band. We'd play Mandrill and Samandi and what was the group from Osabisa, Mino de Bongo. We played all that stuff. They were very popular. Yeah, at the time.
Yeah. So, what was your first trip to the States?
The first trip I made to the States, I was with the band called the Blue Notes, not the famous Blue Notes, a local group called the Blue Notes. And we came to record, and we recorded in Miami, and I recorded Do What You Want to Do. So that's a whole different Do What You Want to Do. That's when I just wrote it, not the one we did with Funkannection. And so that was the first we did, Do What You Want to Do. And I wasn't the lead singer on it. The group lead singer wasn't the lead singer. And I did Monday Morning, song called Monday Morning, which I did the lead on. But I wasn't a singer yet, I just sang it anyway. And people loved it in the Bahamas and everything like that. So that was the first trip to the United States.
And about how old were you?
Oh, I was probably 20, 20, 21, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got signed to a subsidiary of TK, right? So Casey and the Sunshine Band was blowing up. Did you get to meet any of those acts?
Yeah, we met Casey and everything, but boy, they had a funky band. I mean, that's real fun, man. And that guitar player, man. Oh God, I don't remember his name now, but he's passed now. Man, he was funky. So that was one of my favorite bands, Casey. And Casey's vocals just sat right on top of it. It was perfect. He didn't do a bunch of stuff. He just sat right on top of all that funk and didn't get in the way of it. They were a great band. Casey's a great band.
Yeah, I especially love that first album.
Oh man, yeah.
It was kicking. And that guitar solo on Get Down Tonight. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's it, man. That's it. Oh my God. That was so good.
Yeah. And their horn section too.
Oh, everything. I mean, they just had the right compositions from Casey's. They were a real good songwriter. And they had the guitar player was unbelievable. And the horns, oh my goodness, the drummer, bass player, Rick. You see, Rick don't overplay. He just sits right in there, man. I just love how because I made it funky, how he sat in there while all that other stuff is happening, the horns. And Casey just sat right on top of that vocal, man. It was perfect. Perfect group.
So many of the best funk has a kind of understated bass, really, that just sits in there, and holds it down.
Like if you listen to James Brown's Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, the bass player playing doom, 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 and the drummer doing his little thing over here, and James on top of that. You know what I mean? It was funky. Yeah.
I actually just had, I don't know if you remember Jimmy Bohorn, but he was on recently. And so we were talking a lot about TK and Casey and all that. So,
I know Jimmy. Yeah. Jimmy's great singer.
Yeah. Yeah, and that song was cool too that he did, Dance Across
Yeah,
the Floor.
Casey wrote that for him.
Yeah,
Casey wrote, because Casey could have had a million seller with that himself, but Casey's
exactly.
that kind of guy, you know. Said, "Hey, you want a hit? Here you go." Yeah. So that was
Well,
good.
what was inspiring your songwriting, Theo?
The first guy to inspire me when I heard his music was Elton John, because as far as songwriting, I bought his album because I used to listen to a program on WGBS in Miami, and they used to play new people. This guy, I think his name was China Vallis or something like that. He used to play mostly new people or stuff that's not on pop radio. And so when I heard this song called Border Song by Elton John, this was kind of gospel. And I was like, this guy, I didn't know he was British. I thought it was a Black American artist, right? So I go and I get the album. Oh, this is so cool. This is super cool now because I didn't know that British guys sang like that. So anyway, I listened to the whole album, and his writing was just impeccable. And so I wanted to write too. I didn't write a lot like how he wrote, you know, but Stevie Wonder is probably my favorite composer because I think he has more lanes than everybody else. You know, he can go in a bunch of different lanes that not a lot of people can go. You know, there are great singers like Dylan and the Beatles and all those guys. They're all great writers. But Stevie has all these lanes. He can go in all the lanes they're in, and he can go in all these other lanes, you know? And so he's always, to me, been my favorite songwriter. But the guy that started me when I started to say, I'm going to write songs after hearing that guy was Elton John.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Stevie and Elton, two of the biggest, best, most prominent songwriters of that whole decade, for sure.
Definitely. Great songwriters.
And how did you come up with the name T-Connection?
My favorite movie at the time was The French Connection with Gene Hackman, my favorite actor of all time.
Popeye Doyle.
Popeye Doyle, that's my guy. And so I so liked that movie. I saw it in Canada. I was in Canada when I saw that. And I said, oh, when I started to name my group, I just thought of a movie. French Connection, T-Connection, because everyone calls me T. So, you know, my mother calls me T, my father called me T. And so anytime they call me Theophilus, I know I'm in trouble because they never use my name except when I'm in trouble. So that's why I named it after that film. Yeah.
And did you have any other siblings or just you and Kirk?
No, it was 10 of us all together.
Wow.
And then my father remarried. My mother died young. So my father remarried because he still had young children. So he had to have a wife, you know what I mean? Because he had, five young children. So she had, I think, 9 or 10 kids for him. So they were my siblings. And so I think it's 35 altogether siblings that he had. But he was definitely a player, man. But anyway, it was 10 of us with my mother. And so my sisters can all sing. They didn't go professional, but they could have been. Like my sister Mary could sing a butter off. I mean, she could sing she would sing the Shirelles and the Supremes and all that, and the Marvelettes, and you couldn't hear any difference. She was that good. And all my other sisters sang background to her. So they could have been in the business also, but they didn't go into, she went somewhere else. So my siblings were my Oma was very talented in music. He never really played professionally, but he was talented singing and playing.
Wow, definitely in those genes, that music connection.
Yeah, I think so.
Very cool. So when Do What You Want to Do blew up like that, did you start doing any shows based on that, or were you still working on some studio stuff?
No, we went to tour. We did some tours with Average White Band, Slave. I know you got to know them. They were funky.
I think they're on this shirt somewhere. They're all on this shirt, just about.
Okay, so we started off with that. That's the first gig we did. I mean, major gig. We did some little clubs around New York, but major gig, like in an auditorium, was Average White Band, who just floored us. They were so good live, and then later on we did. Who did we go to? Oh yeah, Bootsy Collins and Radio, Ray Parker Jr. And so us three groups, we did like the Southeast, and the next year we did the Isley Brothers.
Wow,
Isley Brothers, And these a lot of these guys are our favorite artists. The Isley Brothers were one of my favorite artists, and War. We were with War on a couple of gigs, and some others. Then we did these big outdoor things where there was like All Day, Ohio Players, Sun, all these funky groups. And Ohio Players were one of our favorites also. So got to see them and hang with them for a couple of minutes anyway. And Lenny Williams, I think his name was. He was good on that show.
Wow. I saw the Radio and Bootsy show in Los Angeles, but you guys weren't on that leg of it.
We didn't. We were in the Southeast. We were on the East Coast. We didn't come out to California until the 80s.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't see you guys.
Yeah, they didn't book us. We did come out here with Confunction, and I don't remember who was Confunction, Claire. Oh boy, somebody else. Tom Brown. Well, we did a few gigs. We did the Cow Palace, and the one in San Diego got canceled. So we did about 2 gigs in California. We mostly in the East Coast, on the East Coast. So
yeah, no, I know. I went to a lot of shows, but I didn't get to see T-Connection, unfortunately.
That was. We had so much fun touring, man, because we were growing up in Bahamas, and we hearing all these groups on the radio, especially on Miami radio. And then you're playing with them, you're on the same stage and you're opening for them and whatever, man. It just was some great fun.
Who are a couple of big personalities that you ran into from those groups that you kind of were friendly with?
Yeah, like Bootsy, Ray Parker. I remember Ray Parker was playing You Got the Love, I think it was, and he was playing the guitar. And so when I said, like, man, you sound just like the record, man. That's great. He said, yeah, because that's me playing. He wrote that for Chaka Khan. So I said, oh, all right, excuse me. So yeah, them, Average White Band, one of our favorites. We met those guys. Benny King, because he had a funk record. People don't remember that.
I do.
What was it called?
Supernatural Thing.
Supernatural Thing. So people just remember from Stand By Me. Well, he's funky. He had that was a funky record. We used to play that as T-Connection. We used to play that. And he sang that with us one night. When he was on vacation in the Bahamas, he came to the club because our club was the happening club, right? And it was Benny King. And so I said, Mr. Benny King's in the house. I wonder if he'll come up and sing a song with us. And so we started playing that, he ran up there and he heard how well we could play it. And he said, love, supernatural thing. Crowd just went bonkers. I mean, they went nuts. And so that was a great night.
You remember what town was that in?
That was in 1975.
But what city was it in?
That was in Nassau.
Nassau.
Yeah, he was on a vacation, And so he came and sat in with us on that one song. That was great. And Joe Frazier, the boxer, I didn't know he could sing, but he could sing. He came and sang Mustang Sally with us. So we had that kind of thing happening there. We had the In Club, where people live in a hotel and they come to hear us, So I got to meet a lot of people like that. Sammy Davis Jr., whoever came to that place, you met Sammy Davis Jr., Jack Jones, Tony Bennett, all those guys.
Wow.
You get to meet them all.
That sounds like fun, big fun.
Yeah.
And then Benny King actually did a whole album with Average White Band, speaking of those.
Right. Because he appeared with them on the gig we did with them. We were in Washington. What was the name of that place? There's a big thing. It was like 25,000 people. And the Average White Band was the headliner. We came on first and we did to Do What You Want to Do. Everybody went crazy. All my keyboards fell down in the middle of it. And everybody thought it was part of the act. And the people started screaming. They don't know that it actually fell accidentally. So the road crew was picking it up, and the people are screaming, this is so cool, And Monks, the percussion player, he just kept playing. He didn't freak out. He just kept playing all his, his part. And so people thought it was great. And so we were great just because of that, And then Slave comes on and they do really well. But when Average White Band comes on, it's like, oh man, because they had this new drummer, because their drummer had passed. And the way they came on was he would just walk toward the band bandstand. He was shaking a tambourine. The whole time he's shaking the tambourine, he's walking toward the drums, and he sits on the drums and he drops the tambourine like that. And he go, bam. He started the funk beat, and they all come in and they chime in. It was just unbelievable. And the crowd was roaring like that. We were in the audience too, because they're one of our favorites, so we get to see them live.
That's so cool. They were fantastic. Their live album is a testament to how great they were live back then.
Great, man. They were great.
Actually, I think you're talking about Steve Ferroni, who was on the show not too long ago, actually. So he's still out there playing those songs.
Yeah, he was a drummer then, because the other guy, I love the other guy too, but I never got to see him live. But Ferroni, I got to see him live. He's unbelievable. Yeah.
Did you ever do any shows with Shaka Khan and Rufus?
No, but that's one of my regrets. I wish that could happen. Because I had their albums. Because they were so different. When they came out, she had her own style of singing that everybody was copying at that time. If you listen to Funkin' for Jamaica, which is one of the funkiest songs ever, Tom Brown, that girl, she sounded just like Shaka Khan. Everybody was trying to sound like Shaka. And she asked me if she could join our group. I said, what do you mean? She said, because I don't get to sing here. Maybe you guys will let me sing more. So I said, no, not right now. So, but she was, wow. I mean, she was a good singer. She sang just like Shaka Khan, all of Shaka's licks and everything like that, because Shaka was so new. Nobody sounded like that before. And that band was unbelievable. Tony Maiden, that was one of the things I wish I could have done, to play with them, just play on the same stage with them.
Yeah.
I never got the chance,
But you sure were with a lot of great ones from that list you just went through.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I became the first T-Connection album I bought was the self-titled one, which actually was the third album.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I went back and listened to the other ones, and there's good stuff on the other ones. And I actually wanted to mention, because you were saying that you wanted to be funkier and they wanted you to do disco, but you tried to keep the funk in the disco.
Yeah.
So to me, a track like Peace Line, still had some of that.
Yeah. Peace Line is the first record I ever recorded in Nassau. That's not the version. It was a local version I did. And I wrote that song and said, hey guys, let's go do that. And the reason the intro is like that is Deodata had a song called 2001, which is a really funky thing. And he used Richard Strauss's classical piece. Da, 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 and he had that so when he did the other one, Rhapsody in Blue, he did the so I used that. And so I said, that would fit right in with Peace Line. And so that's why you hear that intro on there, But that's the first funky record we did. And that's a different version than the first one.
Okay.
Well, the second one was done in a good studio. I mean, I shouldn't say that. King Eric may be listening. But the studio in Nassau was not that advanced yet. You know what I mean? Now they have great studios, but at the time it was not. But we did that in Criteria, so that's going to have a bigger sound, than the original. But I love the original because I like the wah wah that Brown is playing in it. There's always something you're going to like from the records, no matter what.
What did you learn from those first two records, On Fire and Magic, that you brought into that self-titled record in 78? Because to me, I don't know how you feel about it, Theo, but I feel like, you guys really fully arrived with that third record, because you had still some disco stuff, but it was more funk. Mm-hmm. And I think the songwriting throughout was just stronger.
Yeah. They wanted to go pure disco on that, because Corey's thing, he was the producer. His thing was disco. He wanted disco a certain way. I wanted to, if you're going to do that, I wanted to be funky, because a lot of the disco at the time was coming out of Europe, and it was kind of like, it's kind of like straight, nothing really much happening in it, like groove wise, which the drums was like just straight electronic, whatever. And so I said, well, I can't go all the way with you, Corey. So I got, so I had stuff like Funky Lady on it. And when I did Saturday night, that's really informed by Bahamian music because the whole groove is Junkanoo, and the guitar players, they're playing what they're playing. I wanted break and straight break and straight, but they were young guys and they didn't know break and straight that well. Okay. So I tried to play the guitar and show them this and like, yeah, we playing the same thing you do. I said, no. And then I listened to what they were playing and I go like, wow, that's even more interesting than what I was thinking. So I kept that. So that's why you had to get that. My thing was stucking like that. That's rake and straight. That's pure rake and straight. But they, because they grew up in the States. He didn't know that music that well. And Brown was not into that at that time. So basically what they wound up playing with, I love that better anyway. So it's like, okay, great. This is gonna be great. So we did that and we let Corey do his thing. His thing was like the breaks, percussion breaks and all that stuff. That's what he liked to do because he knows the clubs, people go crazy when they hear those breaks. So his thing was make sure you get some good breaks in the song.
Were you ever at any clubs where a T-Connection record came on? You got to see people dancing and enjoying it?
Oh, yeah. They took us to LA. We came out to LA to do promotion thing. We didn't play. And we went to this club. Oh, God, Century. No. Oh, God, I can't remember. You go down by Tower Records because you're from California. So, it's down by Tower Records. Probably defunct now. Anyway, it was a major club. And I just can't remember the name.
Not the Roxy.
Not the Roxy. It's where Tower Records is on Sunset, I think it is.
It's not there anymore, but yeah.
There was a club. There was a club there. Anyway, we went there, and the guy played the record, and everybody went like that. And then after he played the record, so we standing with the DJ. They said, these guys, that's a guy that just did that song that you guys just danced to like that. So we went. So we did that, and in New York. We arrive in New York. We walking down the street and we walking past these record store and the guys around our T-Connection because it was huge in New York. They were around our T-Connection. Come on in here. Let's talk to you, man. And so we had that kind of thing in New York. We go to passing on records, a T-Connection, so it was like that. And so it was just great.
Do you remember when you first heard one of your records on the radio?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I just went nuts. Oh, that's me. Well, you know what's so funny? I was my then girlfriend. So we're driving in the car. She doesn't know anything about T-Connection because she's foreign. Okay. So, and she never heard it. She was from Canada, I think. T-Connection wasn't in Canada yet. So anyway, she lives in the Bahamas now. So we driving and it comes on the radio on WMBM and she's grooving. Wow, this is so cool. She's driving, because I'm on the passenger. Wow. And the end, the guy said, that sounds a T-Connection. She said, that's you? Why didn't you tell me that was you? Because I said nothing. I just, I don't want to say, hey, that's me, I just want to see her real, pure reaction. And so I knew, wow, this thing is good. Yeah. So that was a little story about that.
And was it Do What You Want to Do or a different track?
Do What You Want to Do.
Yeah.
That was playing all over Miami. All over Miami.
Wow.
That played the only song that played in Florida more than almost as much as that would have been The Best of My Love, a ballad. That played a lot in Florida. But Do What You Want to Do, man, that was all over the United States. It was like top 15, I think it's number 15 on R&B, and R&B was tougher than pop actually, because all the big names in R&B and pop were on the R&B charts. Come on, this is the Earth, Wind and Fire. All these big artists were all on R&B. They were on pop too, but they were already large pop groups. But the R&B thing, they just would crush everybody that come along because they're bigger. But we were up in the top 15, which was good for R&B because that was tough.
Going back to that T-Connection record, did you self-title it because you felt like you were making more of a statement about who you were on that one?
Which one?
The third record, which was just called T-Connection.
Yeah. To me, that was the album on TK. There's no of all the albums to me that just stands out. That's the best album to me on that company there, because I think we came full circle on that. we knew what we did on these first two albums, and yeah, that was good. But I wanted to, and you know what helped? Those touring, when we were touring with all those groups like the Isleys, we would come back and we said, you know what, we can make that even better. So everything got better because we did those tours, because we'd go off for a few weeks or something like that and come back and go right back in the studio. I wanted to stay in the studio, but they said, you got to tour. And so I said, okay, but I wanted to finish this thing. But in a way, it worked out better because that album is so good. I mean, I'm really proud of that album.
You should be. I love that record, and I think it still sounds great.
Yeah.
And I want to mention in particular the first two tracks, because they weren't singles, but they're among my favorites. And Funkannection, to me, is still one of the best funk tracks from the era, and it wasn't a single.
No.
People gotta maybe seek it out, but it is fantastic. And I wanted to ask you how you came up with that groove. And it just starts with like the drink pouring and that strumming guitar and the bass pluck in. It's got the,
to me, that's my favorite track on the album right there, because I had that as an instrumental, and I had the whole and I had the drum. I said, that's what the drum part I want. I told everybody to play on that, and I said, I want that like a rock guitar strum. Like imagine the Eagles or somebody like in the Life in the Fast Lane, but I want it funky, And so when Brown said, "Hey man, do you mind if I put some lyrics to this, like a rap?" And I said, "Yeah, because it would have been an instrumental." And so, and now I'm wondering, geez, he gonna do something, set a room to song. When he came up with a rap, I was like, "Oh my goodness." And he was our rapper. I mean, he was just so good. And the lyrics he came up with, man. So when we finished that song, I thought, this is the best. That's my favorite. I don't like to say the best, because there are good songs on it too, like Coming Back for More, which is one of my favorites there. But that's my favorite on the whole album. That's my favorite.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, since I love it so much.
Huh?
I'm glad to hear it, since I love it so much.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I mean, that's great. That's great.
And it was, even the trees are growing funk leaves.
When I saw that on the paper, I was like, wow, dude, when you come up with this stuff, So, that's great. That's great.
And Scott, one of the ingredients that really helps make a funk song great for me is the chant. It's got a great chant. It's everything's in it.
Make a funk connection, funk with the T connection. Yeah. And then
that must have been fun to play live. Did you guys do it live?
We never did that live. Wow. We never did that live, because what happened when we went live again, Brown and Berkeley were not in the group anymore. So we just mostly did, except for Do What You Want to Do and a couple more, we mostly did stuff we were recording at the time because we were promoting those albums. But when we were playing live with those guys, that wasn't out yet. So, but when that came out, at that same time, by the time that came out, we were doing another album, which was the Totally Connected album. And what happened, the group was being fractured and people going in different directions. And so basically, we never really got to play that live.
Yeah.
But so we didn't have Brown to do the rap. And so I didn't want anybody else to do the rap except him, because I think he was just perfect with it, because the way his voice was rising as it went on, and it kept rising, it got louder and louder, he said, "Be liable to blow up funk resistant." That nobody else, I think, could have done.
He does that laugh. Yeah, it's just good. Yeah. Wow. Well, and Coming Back for More, I'm glad to hear that you like that one too, because I really love that one too. And I thought it was just it's a little catchier than like a Funkannection's hardcore funk. Coming Back for More, it's got a little more R&B flavor, but still very funky. And I don't know. I felt like it maybe, if not was influenced by, certainly had some common threads to like what Brothers Johnson were doing around that time.
Yeah. They were one of our influences, because I just love that the way they did their funk, because they had some real good funk records. Even when they did a song, like a pop song, like, what's that song they had, that version, I'll Be Good to You. I'll Be Good to You. The guy's funking on that, and it's really a pop song, but no, it's a funk song because of how he's playing it. And when they did what's the other one? Funk oh god, I can't remember them now. It's Louis Johnson's group.
Ain't we funkin' now?
Ain't We
Or
Funkin'?
get the funk out my face.
Yeah, Get the Funk on My Face. That's the one. Get the Funk out of my face. And he does the bass. Man, he was something else. Thundertones. Yeah.
Did you ever do any shows with them?
No shows with that. You know.
But I mean, they were produced by Quincy Jones, you know,
Yeah.
and your record, if I'm thinking of Brothers Johnson, I think it's a pretty big compliment that the production was at that kind of level.
Yeah. Well, the thing with that song, Coming Back for More, like I was saying earlier, when we were going tour and we come back, I rehauled that whole song, you know, because I wanted Dave to play something when he was so good. And I wanted to ding it, ding it, ding it, oh, not break. I said, hey, we need something in there. So when we came back, we did some more stuff. The vocals were always good. The vocals were done right. But I just felt like it was something else. And so going away and coming back, we were able to do that. And to me, I listen to it every day on YouTube. I just like that song. That and Funkannection list. Of all the songs on that album, I listen to those two the most.
Yeah, and they started off. So what a way to start it.
Yeah.
Did you have much say in like what would be a single, or was it pretty much, you know, the label?
I would say, but you know, usually the label decides what's going to be a single. And I don't know. I thought when we were in Capitol, Best of My Love should have been a single, but they were saying no because it's selling the album, so people have to buy the album. And my argument was, yeah, but if it's a single, it'll be on the radio all the time, and people will, you know, would buy it more. But they didn't agree with that. So, but they had the last say, you know.
Well, the last, I think it's the last one for TK. Yeah, Totally Connected. That was, you know, that title track and I Like Funkin' With You. Those are more just great funk tracks.
Yeah. Funkin' With You is a song Dave brought to me. And because Dave used to come downstairs to me, we lived in a high rise. He lived up there and I lived down here. I didn't want to go all the way in the nosebleed section. So he would come downstairs and say, hey, look at them working on this. And then this thing, it was funky as heck. And he didn't have words because Dave didn't write lyrics yet. So I said, oh yeah, I can put lyrics to it. And so that's how we came up with that. And so, okay, this will definitely make the album. Because I was producing it, so I could put whatever I wanted. So I put that on it. And so almost pretty much everybody had a song on it, you know.
What were you like? What was your demeanor like in the studio?
Serious. Serious. Until I go back and listen to something, I go, oh yeah, that's working. Like Berkeley at midnight, when he hit that note, I can't hit it. He has a higher. And he hit midnight, and he went way up there. I just went like, oh, and the producers did the same thing. We all got thrown backwards, you know. So yeah, then you would see me open up, but I'm serious as a heart attack when I'm in the studio. I got to make sure everything's grooving, man. My thing is groove, you know, because that's what I always liked growing up, grooves, you know. So that's how I was in the studio, serious.
And on most of those tracks, you're playing keys. Are you playing other things on some of them, or?
No, I'm playing keys. Yeah, I'm playing keys on all the TK stuff. Now, when we went to Capitol, like say the ballads like Paradise, I'm playing acoustic guitar because Dave didn't play finger style; he played a pick. And so I playing the guitar on that, and I'm playing guitar on A Little More Love. I don't think I'm playing anything else, but most of keys.
We talked about your songwriting influence. Who is a keyboard influence for you?
Oh, the first guy that blew me away was Ramsey Lewis, because he was bluesy, and I can play as a kid. I can play what he was playing, and then a few years later, when I was in Freeport, and this American guy played. He said, I told him about Ramsey, man, I love Ramsey. He said, yeah, Ramsey's good. I know Ramsey, you know. Because there's an American guy. He was a great piano player. Also, this guy, I know Ramsey. Ramsey's good, but I want you to hear something. He played Oscar Peterson, and I was like, oh my god. The guy sounded like he had 10 fingers on each hand. So I was like, wow. So he became my favorite. As far as people playing pop, keyboard, I really like the guy with Earth, Wind and Fire,
Larry Dunn.
Larry Dunn. I like the way he plays keyboards. He's one of the guys I really, really like. You know, I
He
mean,
was influenced by Ramsey Lewis too. So.
yeah, yeah. Ramsey was my first guy, man. Because Ramsey was so tasty, sparing. You know, he didn't go crazy a lot. You know, he just beautiful, beautiful playing. As a bluesy, and as bluesy, I love blues, man. And so he was bluesy, so I loved him. That was my guy, man. Ramsey Lewis.
Yeah, and he straddled so many different styles too.
Yeah, he's got a lot of lanes that he could go into. Yeah, yeah, he was good.
And how would you decide upon your arranging? You know, how you would do your parts, and you know, how would you come up with some of that?
Well, you know, a lot of the things you would see somebody said arranged by so and so, but I arrange everything on the record. They just wrote out the arrangement and they would put arranged by, you know. But the only song on the album where there was somebody else arranging was with Ray Chu on that first album with um, 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 Everything Is Cool. Okay, there's some stuff that Ray actually arranged because he is an arranger, but you see I'm taking like TK records arranged by so and so and T Coakley. No, there's just T Coakley. He just wrote down what I arranged. And so basically my arrangements was always I want to make sure I arrange the groove. I want the groove. So I got to tell everybody what to play because I want the groove just like I want in my head. Because I'm writing the song. So I want to know, okay, this is what I want to play. So coming back for more, I know I want a straight groove and I wanted some licks here and there. And I want the bass. I don't want a lot of things in the way because I want the guitar player to do some stuff. So that's how I arrange. I try to make sure the groove is good. You know, I think of the groove first. When it's a dance song, groove first.
What about in terms of what keyboard you choose? You know, whether it's electric piano or synth or whatever.
I play by ear. Like, okay, I may do one keyboard and go like, I think this other keyboard would be okay. Like, do what you want to do when we had the bass going, but I wanted a deeper sound in that break. Or every time we go, like you hear it go boom, 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 do, 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 boom, do, do. See, I didn't just want the bass to play, it wouldn't be heavy enough. So they had a synthesizer at the time called the 2600. And the guy from the Bee Gees, Albie Galutin, he was good at programming that stuff. So he was walking through the studio and saying, hey, Albie, could you help me out with this thing? Could you program it for me so I could play it? Because I had no idea to program it. It was very complicated because you're patching stuff, And he came, he said, oh, no problem. He just bing, 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 bing. There you go. And I just played that. That's the reason why that song is so funky, because that bass is so big, And so stuff like that. I would play it by ear and I go like, that should be heavier there, and I would put that in like that. That's how I arrange. But I always have a basic arrangement to it. And then I put all this other stuff in.
Fortunate that guy happened to be around,
Yeah, because it was sitting there in the studio, but I didn't know how to program it because that you didn't need to be a tech. He was a tech and a great musician at the same time. He did all the Bee Gees stuff, all the Bee Gees funky stuff, because they went funky later on. They were more like a folk group at first, and then they did jive talking. That's him with that. That's him. And he's a hippie. I mean, he was.
And You Should Be Dancing. That was pretty funky.
Yeah, that's all him. All that is him. He arranged everything on the records. Brilliant dude.
Theo, what about the presentation of Funkannection? I'm looking right now. I have on my screen the Totally Connected cover. You guys are looking very dapper and sharp on that cover. Who influenced that? What kind of vibe were you guys going for?
Well, Corey was saying, was it Corey? No, Corey. Yeah, Corey was saying, hey guys, but I produced that album, so Corey was out, but Corey's the one saying, if you guys are going to do something, do with this guy, Francesco Cavullo, who did everybody. I mean, you look on all those, Francisco, So we go there and we meet him. I think he's Italian from Italy, brilliant photographer. So they told us, our managers at the time said, look, I want you guys to dress up. So we went to the store and we bought all this stuff like that. And so we were looking kind of dapper right there. So he took the great picture and, I had the throwback then,
It was a huge change from the previous album that had you guys without shirts around a campfire or something.
Yeah, well, they thought that was cool, but the photographer, that was his idea, and all Corey and the record company. Yeah, I didn't want to do it because I wasn't muscular, man. So they're like, nah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be, you got a song called like Midnight, and we have the stars, and it's gonna be dark, and you guys just be there, and people won't know whether you're naked or not. So. So, girls are like, "We were really naked." I said, "Hey, I can't tell you. You figure it out what you think, whatever you think."
People might not realize there was a lot of that going on back then. I remember the Barcades had no shirts on their cover, and a lot of the guys, Slave had that, guy without the top on their cover.
And so, that was a photographer's idea. He said, "Hey, this is going to be great," but it's our biggest album to this day, actually. That album. Because it had a lot of lanes. You had the disco over here, you had the funk over here. If somebody likes funk, they buy the album. Disco, So that's our biggest album.
Absolutely.
That is in Raymond Records, that was the top selling record for months. Yeah.
There's much more to this great Truth and Rhythm interview. Just continue on to the next part of the episode. Also, be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. And become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you very much.